49ers let Kendrick Bourne go this offseason. He signed a moderately priced contract with the Patriots. They replaced him with Trent Sherfield, who had an excellent training camp in preseason, but is now MIA. They also have Brandon Ayuk, who's also MIA. In retrospect, was this a mistake letting Kendrick Bourne go?
I mean, I don't think it was a mistake to let Kendrick Bourne go. Now, last season, Kendrick Bourne had 49 receptions, had over 667 receiving yards, and had 2 touchdowns. But last year, if you look at his numbers, Debo's missing a lot of games. George Kittle missed a lot of games. The only 2 guys that pretty much were playing for us last year was Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne, who were the 2 starters for the team last year. So he got that many receptions. Now, if you look at this year, I don't know if Kyle Shanahan would quote unquote have Kendrick Bourne in his doghouse because they said they like Trent Sherfield. They said Brandon Ayuk isn't making his strides. They're happy with Debo Samuel, but they were fine with getting rid of Kendrick Bourne. And I don't think it was a mistake because we have some good receivers. Now, I think they should utilize Ayuk more, but I don't necessarily think Kendrick Bourne, if we were going to bring him back, I don't think Kendrick Bourne would have been number one. We would have to pay him a lot, which I don't think we would have been able to outbid the Patriots, but I don't know how much snaps he's going to get. I don't know how many targets he's going to get. So,
okay, let me make the argument that they messed up here. I think because at the time, I always flip flop, and I think at the time I said let him go, but I don't run the team. I'm just a Monday morning quarterback, and I'm looking at the facts, and they could use him right now. I mean, they have Debo Samuel and no one else, and I'm looking at his numbers. They're exactly what they were pretty much last year. Like last year, he averaged 44 yards a game. Now he's averaging 47 yards a game. He's a very consistent player, but he's also efficient. Like when he's getting targeted this year, Mac Jones' quarterback rating is 124. He's a solid player, and like, is he expensive? I mean, to an extent, he's making $3 million this year. He'll make $5 million next year and $6 million the year after that. So my question is, would you rather have Kendrick Bourne or Samson Ebukam?
I would rather have Kendrick Bourne, right? But the thing is, I don't know how much he would do for this team right now in this year, right? Because if you just look at the Patriots, their starting receivers are Nelson Aguilar. They have Kendrick Bourne, who's another starting receiver, and then I forgot who else they brought in. As another starter. I think it's Jacoby Myers, who they have as other starting.
Yeah.
Right. Where with the Niners, we have Debo Samuel, and coming into the season, we're like, okay, we have Ayuk. He's another starter.
See, that's the thing.
Right, and then
they thought Ayuk was going to be their starter, but really Bourne would be a starter for them right now.
And then Sherfield was balling out in preseason, having 80, 100-yard receiving games. So would Kendrick Bourne really have a huge impact on this team this year with how much Kyle Shanahan likes Trent Sherfield and how Travis Benjamin is getting more time on the field than Brandon Ayuk? Yeah. I don't know how much of help or how much he would get playing time on the field. So, and I don't know if he would be able to outbid the Patriots to get Kendrick Bourne. So I really don't think he would have had a huge impact on this team, especially this year.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good point. I do think he'd be starting right now over Ayuk. I think he's a better player right now than Ayuk, although Ayuk has more talent. The thing about, I still think in retrospect they should have signed him because he's a homegrown player. They developed him themselves. He only missed one game, and I think it was because of COVID. Like, was it a close contact? I mean, I think it was he never got injured. He was a homegrown guy. He was good. These are the kind of guys you should want to keep, but these are the guys the Niners don't keep. They keep the injured guys. And I have theories for that. But, I mean, sign Kendrick Bourne, who you developed yourself, or let him go and sign Samson Ebukam, who the Rams developed and don't want. It just seems like, why don't you stick with your guy? I mean, I know you need a defensive end, of course, but why don't you stick with your guy? Especially if you're not 100% sold on Brandon Ayuk. You know, I don't know.
Well, I don't know if they were not. I think it's something that happened between Kyle and Ayuk. I don't necessarily know because Ayuk looked great last year, right?
He did.
He looked great last year. You can't deny that. He looked great last year.
He did. And that was the main reason to let what's his face?
Kendrick Bourne go. He looked good last year.
You don't need him anymore. Yeah.
And in this year, so I'm pretty sure something happened between Ayuk and Kyle because otherwise, I don't know why Ayuk wouldn't be the starter. Because before in the offseason, we're like, Ayuk, he could have a breakout year. He has the potential to make the Pro Bowl this year. He could have a 1,000-yard season this year. And then they come out this year and say, Ayuk isn't making the strides that he's supposed to. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why they let Kendrick Bourne go, because they had Ayuk. They felt, Ayuk is good enough. He's a first rounder. We think he did good this year. So that's
Yeah.
probably one of the biggest reasons why I think they let Kendrick Bourne go. But
Yeah.
I don't even know if they were gonna pay Kendrick Bourne how much the Patriots were offering. Because if Kendrick Bourne was getting $22 million from the Patriots, I don't know if the Niners would be like, yo, we're willing to give you $22 million when we just drafted Brandon Ayuk, who played
Right.
excellent this
Of
year.
course. And we're a 2 wide receiver offense, of
Yeah.
course. But the Niners bet on Ayuk, who really wasn't proven yet, and he missed 4 games his rookie year to injury. So I think with the Niners, if there's a lesson to learn here, is this kind of falls under the DeForest Buckner thing. Like, if you have a young player that you've developed who's durable, doesn't get injured, and keeps improving, you want to keep that guy. I know he may seem a little expensive when it comes time to negotiate, but those are the guys you want to keep because those are your team leaders. Those are the guys that will be there every week. If you invest in people like, I don't know, George Kittle, you got 16 million on the bench a lot of the time. So the ones who have shown that they can stay healthy and be leaders, those are the ones that you want to keep. And I think Bourne, in retrospect, even though he looked like a number 3 receiver, he's kind of cheap for a starter, and you didn't know whether Ayuk or Debo was going to be durable this year. So far, it looks like Debo will be, but yeah. Anyway,
I
it's
think
hard to be
I just
negative
think they were happy with Ayuk and his production
for
last
sure.
year. So I don't necessarily think it was, Ayuk is not going to be able to do well this year. I think it was something between Kyle and Ayuk or something like that, where they probably got into an argument or something, where because Ayuk on the field last year,
Yeah.
he was amazing, right? He had 700 yards. I think if he played full season, he could have had over 800, 900 yards. Potentially could have broke Jerry Rice's rookie receiving record if he played all 16 games, but he didn't. But I think they were happy with Ayuk's play on the field last year, but I
Right.
think that's why they probably got rid of Kendrick Bourne. They didn't
But I
know
think,
this year that
but
Ayuk
again,
wasn't
like
going
with
to thrive.
Bourne and with Buckner, I think the 49ers kind of took for granted their dependability. And I think if there's a lesson to learn here is to keep around the dependable players. So next year, guys who'll be free agents, Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley's a good player. They say he's a good player. He could get, I don't know what he's going to get on the free agent market, but he could get something that maybe the Niners turn like, wow, that's more than we would think. You might want to bring him back, man. He's dependable, like Juszczyk. You spend a premium on Juszczyk, but part of that premium is the fact that he's there all the time. Dwelley's there all the time. You might want to use him. But so I'm trying to think, like, who's the next Bourne that the Niners might want to think twice before they just let him walk out the door? Dwelley's one. There might be more.
I mean,
I don't know.
one thing I will say about Dwelly though is that most people look at George Kittle, and when even other fans of other teams, they look at George Kittle. I don't know about how much recognition Ross Dwelly will get, because we all look at, George Kittle's an amazing run
Right.
blocker. He's an amazing, he's a top 3 tight end when healthy. Where with Kendrick Bourne last year, since the team had so many injuries, he got a chance because Debo was injured. George Kittle was injured last year. Dwelly, even when George Kittle was injured last year, Dwelly didn't get that many targets. He'd maybe have 2
No.
targets per game. So he didn't even
No.
get that many targets. Where Bourne
Yeah.
last year had like 49 receptions and like
Right.
600 plus yards. So
That's
that's
right.
probably why the Patriots are like, yo, we see what Kendrick Bourne is doing. We'll sign into the contract. Where even
No, yeah.
when George Kittle is injured, Dwelly doesn't get that many targets.
No, he doesn't. So that would be one guy. Like last year, they re-signed Warner. Good. That's the kind of guy you re-sign. They re-signed Emmanuel Mosley. That's working out. He was an undrafted free agent. He improved. He's not that expensive. Keep him. Those were the right calls. In retrospect, I feel like I should have, as a quality control guy, I should have done more to keep Kendrick Bourne around here because he was important. Anyway, Stilo says, Amin, you definitely have a future in broadcasting. Good job, youngster.
Appreciate it.